Hello there. Happy Wednesday, which means happy Loki Day. I'm Eric. I've got Kim and Lon here. Hey guys, how's it going?
Pretty good, thanks.
We are going to dig into, I think, a very, very big, certainly busy episode of Loki. Full spoilers for Loki episode 4, which was called The Nexus Event. If you haven't seen it, you don't want to be listening to this unless you don't care about spoilers. So then continue on as you will. If not, go watch it, come back and watch this video after. All right, guys, spoiler warning, 3, 2, 1, full spoilers now. All right, this was the Nexus Event. It was written by Eric Martin, who, like Michael Waldron, the head writer, is a Rick and Morty alum, which that is some savvy thing to get the Rick and Morty guys to write for this show, particularly. That Kevin Feige guy seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah. You can really feel the Rick and Morty fingerprints now. Yeah.
Yes, you absolutely can. Big episode. So let's just start out with overall impression. What did each you guys think of the Nexus Event?
Well, a lot happened.
I'll say.
And actually, though, despite a lot happening, I felt like we all knew most of what was happening was going to happen. So for me, it was a little bit of a predictable show, I suppose. And for this reason, it was probably my least favorite, controversially, of all the episodes so far.
Hot take.
Coming in with the hot take.
Yeah, wow.
Though I do still love the show.
I guess we knew I guess you would say the main twist being that the timekeepers are robots, or like that the story of the TVA that we've been presented was faulty on some level. I think we'd all kind of keyed in on some way, like, this is not all what it seems, and these reptilian overlord guys don't seem that realistic. But I certainly felt like there were a lot of twists and turns and circumstances that I didn't particularly see coming. Like, it felt like there were a lot of, it also felt like last week everybody was so like, oh, well, not a lot happens. It's a very character episode. The word filler was getting thrown around there online, but I don't think this week has nearly the impact it had without last week, because you had to see the Lokis getting together and connecting to understand the significance of what was happening this week.
Yeah, I should say I had no idea that Mobius would get pruned, or Loki.
Right, those moments were very like, what? Like when Mobius because I believed it. Like usually in Marvel, death or whatever, I'm like, we'll see. Like the jury's still out. But I believed it. When she zapped Mobius, I was like, no more Owen Wilson. I liked him.
Yeah, well, we'll talk a little bit more about that. I
think he'll be back.
I think he'll be back as well, although it still worked as a great moment. I really love this episode. It was my favorite, but I also agree with you, Lon, that it works in sort of totality with last week's. And as someone who loved last week's and thought, no, it's important to have a character episode like that, it's like, they kind of have this really nice symbiotic relationship with each other that one feeds into the other. Because, this was very plot heavy, but I thought in a really fun way. Of course, we already knew something was up with the timekeepers. And the second that scene actually began, the second you go in there and it's pretty goofy, I'm like, this does feel like a Wizard of Oz thing is about to happen.
Well, especially the green guy who is almost reminded me of Jim Gaffigan's character from Luca, where he's got like he's almost like a sea monster. When that guy starts talking, you're like, oh, it's Country Bears. Like this is not, they're watching a show.
Yeah. And the dry ice gave it away. I was trying to see if I could see a dry ice man hidden in the corner.
I did think it was funny.
Luca, it's dangerous on the surface. You can't go up there. They eat fish.
That Disney synergy is very tight. I did think it was funny when Sylvie said, they're mindless androids. I'm like, you don't know they're mindless. They could be.
Data was watching at home like, that's unfair.
There could be a Dalek type organism inside the bodies. They never looked at the body.
A little lumpy alien, like, exterminate.
Right. There's so many different directions you can go here.
Good, yeah.
Yes. I really thought there was a lot of kind of fun and exciting stuff. There's very clearly, this is the beginning of the second half of the season, and I don't think the show, because there's already rumors there's a second season of the show, and it feels like the one that definitely can lead to more adventures. But yeah, let's kind of we'll leap around here a lot, I think, because there are so many kind of big points. Let's talk about the post-credit scene, just because we knew Richard E. Grant was in this show. It was something that was, I wouldn't say announced, because Marvel announces things and some things break in the trades, but we knew he was in the show. And I think a lot of people did guess. I guess I see your point, Kim, in that it's like even Richard E. Grant will play an older Loki. A lot of people guess just because him and Hiddleston, it made a lot of sense.
He looks like he could be the older.
Yeah.
I still love this scene.
But this is an amazing, that Lon was mentioning before we started filming. This is such a great the visual, the score of this show is great. We mentioned that. And this visual of these 3 Loki, Avengers Tower there, busted up in the background.
There's 4 Lokis in
that's right.
shot.
There's a little lizard or
there
gator.
You go. There's Croc Loki. He's got his own crown, so he's definitely a Loki. That's how you know.
right. But I thought this was great. I think we're all on board here with whatever's going on with the Council of Lokis. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, this shot was amazing. Like, I feel like the whole show, that you get why they wanted to make this show when you see this shot. Like, oh, sure, take like every version of Loki from across the multiverse and have them all like mix it up together. Like in one universe, Loki is Thor, and in another, he's a crocodile, and whatever. And like the ruined environment. I love everything about this. I can't wait to delve more into this world.
This guy, who is called Boastful Loki in the credits, with the hammer, is interesting. And I've got questions about him. Is he some kind of Thor Loki hybrid?
Well, I guess in one reality, if there wasn't a Thor, or like Hela killed Thor in his crib or whatever, like maybe Loki would have been raised with, he would have gotten Mjolnir.
Yeah, that's the Boastful Loki kind of raises the most questions because there's not as clear a comic book correlation. Kid Loki was a thing they did in the comics where Loki got killed and he got brought back to life, but now he was a kid and he looked very much like this version of Loki.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then classic Loki, besides being Richard E. Grant, is dressed in, of course, a 1960s Marvel Comics classic Loki costume with the yellow frilly stuff around him. And we were also... What were you saying, Kim?
Look at that hodl. What's he got in his bag?
He's also holding the bag.
That's true. He's got a carrying case. But yeah, we were joking beforehand. They certainly seem to be having fun in the MCU of how can we put their classic costume into these things in live action and kind of acknowledge that they would look goofy if we did this all the time, but still get it in there.
I almost feel like now that we're establishing that it is part of a multiverse, they're kind of doing it. DC Comics has always done this in the comics, where it's like one multiverse, like one of the universes is like the comics. Like Marvel Comics exist as a separate but distinct reality here. So that's where like the traditional Sokovian costumes and WandaVision come in. Like, I feel like we're now sometimes getting glimpses of this alternate reality that is like everything that happened in Marvel Comics really did happen in this other verse.
It's out there in the multiverse.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about
I have one more question for you, the Marvel Comics guy. Is there a reptile Loki comic book source, or is that original for the show?
That I don't know offhand, but I don't want to say.
There's a frog Thor, I know.
There is a Thor frog, which they made a joke about in one of the movies.
Yeah.
I have some Loki gaps, so there might be a Croc Loki, but I don't know offhand.
Okay, good to know.
Someone Ryan, tell us if someone in the comments.
Sound off in the comments if you're familiar with Croc Loki, because I'd love to hear more.
Let's talk about this was a big death episode. Now, of course, the post credits did immediately reveal they did not kill the title character off in the 4th episode, and that he's still around. Mobius also got killed. Hunter C20 was killed off screen. Obviously, she hasn't been like a deep character. She's kind of been important to the plot, but we don't know a lot about her. But yeah, Owen Wilson is not gone from this show, but I do think when he died, I will say, is this like a trick that him and Loki came up with together? But then I don't think it is. But what do you think? How will we see Owen Wilson again? Because we got to be seeing him, right?
I mean, if they've gone to, if this is a place, another dimension or something that they all go to when they're pruned, I felt like maybe it's a holding place for execution, because Richard E. Grant's character says, I think Loki questions whether he's dead, and he says, "You will be soon unless you come with me."
Right.
So yeah, I thought maybe they go there to be executed. Or is this a place that just the Loki variants go to? I don't know. But if it's the former, where they all go, then Mobius will probably still be alive there somewhere, hiding out. And maybe there are more Mobiuses.
Maybe we see more Mobiuses, and that's where Luke Wilson comes into play.
There's several. There's an Andrew Wilson as well. We can get
That's true. We're gonna get them all.
And Matt Damon.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did a really canny thing that we didn't realize in episode 1, which is where they showed us that first guy getting zapped with these weapons, disintegrating, and instilled in us the idea that that's it. Like, if a variant gets zapped, they're gone forever. And I think what we realize in the mid-credit sequence this week is not necessarily. Those work like the portals where they can send you somewhere, but it's not vaporizing you out of existence.
And
because Loki now...
Right. To use the word prune.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe Mobius didn't go, like, this does look like it's a planet or a reality where they're just stashing Lokis. So I don't know if Mobius will be there, but I think it stands to reason that they zapped him somewhere else that's not out of existence entirely.
Right. All right, let's talk about one of the most important things of television viewing, which is shipping.
Of course.
This was fascinating to me because last week, we talked about the Loki and Sylvie, and are they in some way romantically attracted to each other? And then it was funny because I look on Twitter sometimes and I see when Loki, after I've seen the episode, what people were saying, and the fact that was even even an idea had some people being like, "Oh, that's weird, but it's fun." And I had some people saying, "Don't you dare even talk about that as a possibility. That's disgusting." I was actually very surprised, I will say pleasantly, because it is so weird, that this episode did not make it subtext. That no matter what happens, this episode very much had Mobius say, "Hey, you guys are into each other because that's how narcissistic you are," which is something that we talked about last week. I think it is weird, but that's what's so fun about it. And I like that Marvel is willing to get weird because it raises such strange timeline, questions of incest, if it's yourself from I don't know. It's so strange. What do you guys think of the possibility that they raised here very distinctly, even Mobius saying your girlfriend, of Loki and Sylvie being the love of each other's lives, which is, of course, loving themselves that much?
I mean, when I'm watching it, I'm so conflicted because when I'm watching it, it feels like the most natural thing in the world, Eric. It's lovely, it's sweet. But then I stop and think, no, it's so wrong. This can't happen. But also I would say I feel like Loki is more into Sylvie than Sylvie is into Loki.
Yes, I agree with that. I don't know. Maybe this says more about me. You guys can be the judge. I don't really think it's gross. If they were related, if they were in the same family, but they're very different. They're obviously not clones because they look different. They're obviously distinct individuals, and they had such different lives and experiences. They don't feel like the same person to me in the way that it would be if two of Michael Keaton's clones from Multiplicity fell in love. That would be weird because they're identical, and you're like, no. But this, to me, it feels like, yeah, they may share some, more DNA that is biologically acceptable. I don't know how that would all work. But they feel like different enough people who have different enough perspectives on the world and come from different enough places that I'm like, yeah, I ship it. I'm into it. I feel like it feels natural to me. And they do. The actors have a lot of chemistry together, I think, purposefully. You believe it when you're watching it. You're like, these two work together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I mostly feel too. I think I don't think it's gross. I do think it's weird, and it's admire
weird to think about the implications of it. Yeah,
but I admire that they're willing to get weird, which is, I think, already been a strength we saw with WandaVision, not Falcon Winter Soldier so much, but that these shows are probably have the freedom to get weird in a way the movies wouldn't. Just even has a timeline wise for doing a 2-hour movie, and also maybe the way they're being presented. But these shows can be we're going to get a little strange here.
I think that's a really good point that goes unmentioned sometimes. The movies, you have to have this constant frenetic pace because it's a movie and you can't let it like, so a lot of the time if you're watching commentary or if you're talking to a director afterwards, they're like, we loved this scene. It was so great for character, but we had to cut it. Just felt out of place. It like dragged the movie at this spot and we had to get rid of it. And the TV shows don't have that exact, like you could just add a scene. Like it doesn't have a cut, you know, it has to be this length or whatever, you know, like I feel like it does give them a little more freedom to like play with these characters and scenarios, whereas a movie, it's like if you don't have a really compelling reason that this scene is right here, it has to go.
My one criticism I would have of this episode is that and I think it is funny as we're talking about the freedom of time, one only thing I thought was rushed here a little bit was that so quickly we had to have both Mobius and Hunter B-15 kind of get on board with everything that they ever thought was the truth wasn't. And I just, I wished, especially with Hunter B-15, because I think with Mobius, we already kind of knew he had his own methods and maybe he'd be a little more willing. But with her, it was like in this one very quick scene and they don't show what she's seeing. So we just kind of have to go with like this convinced her to kind of change everything she ever believed. It was a quibble because I still liked that it was happening, but maybe I wish we got a little bit more time to let that play. I think in an ideal world, maybe it would have even been set up a little more strongly 2 episodes ago. That like when she got, taken over, that something was different for her. What do you guys think of both of them kind of turning on the system that they'd fought for so long?
Well, I thought that actually Hunter B-15 was the heart and soul of the episode, and I think she acted it really well. Actually,
she did
probably, and that's maybe what tugged at my heartstrings, and. Yeah, so for me, I didn't feel those things, Eric, but I see what you're saying. And Mobius, I'm just glad that he knows now and he's on board.
And he knows there might really be a jet ski out there for him.
Yeah, he's not bothered about the family or the life he might have had, but get him on that jet ski.
Yeah, I actually kind of liked the decision to not cut to. I feel like a lot of filmmakers or directors would have been tempted to do at least give us a flash of the life that she saw before she was at the TVA. And I kind of like that we just let the actor sort of play it in the moment as like they're experiencing this life-changing thing. I agree. It felt a little abrupt. Like ideally you would have separated these 2 beats so each of these characters could have had this huge life-altering realization and had their own moment with it. But as it played out, I thought it worked. And I really did like the scene with Sylvie and Hunter B-15 just kind of in the rain. And just like letting these 2 actors kind of do it without necessarily intercutting it with like she was on the beach and she was having a great afternoon.
Yeah,
I love that
like we can fill that in for ourselves.
On that rain scene, I loved that it made Sylvie's hair look like Loki's greasy locks, but blonde.
Yes.
And I totally agree. I do agree with you, Kim, though. The acting does sell a lot, because she is great there, showing sort of these revelations kind of hitting her. The other thing, of course, here is that this episode basically goes, I'd say, I don't want to commit to this fully, but it seems like Ravonna is a heel here. She seemed to, know what was going on. Let's talk about the Kang of it all, because is Kang the new Mephisto? And that there's a group of people now that they have distinctly said, okay, the timekeepers were not real. Something else is behind this. A lot of people are saying it's Kang. Now, there's a huge difference here with the Mephisto thing, which is it's not coming from just a comic book thing that in no way has been really set up here. We are dealing with time travel. We were dealing with Ravonna, a character that's tied to Kang, and Kang has been cast in something. So there's a lot more tangible reasons to think he might be tied to it. But I'm still skeptical that he will be, I am the evil villain. Kind of the same reason I said with Mephisto as we got further into WandaVision, which is it's putting a lot on a character that the audience has never seen and that people who don't read the comics don't even know to show up and be like, I'm the villain. I again think he will connect to this. I think that if we don't see him, we will directly have it tied to him. But what do you guys think? Is this all about him, or is it more like kind of gonna more setting up stuff with him and someone else is behind the TVA specifically in this show?
I do still feel that Kang will have a presence in this show. There might be someone between him and Kang, maybe. Maybe Trevor Slattery.
There you go.
Great. I'm in.
He's good with voices. He can
Yeah.
do three.
I mean, I feel like we've got the MCU precedent for how they do this, which is it's the classic Ronan the Accuser, Thanos intermediary role. In fact, Loki played this role in the first Avengers film, which is, I think, Ravonna, she's our villain. Like, she's the villain of this show.
Right.
Now, at the end of this show,
who does she represent, though? Yeah.
At the end of this show, is she just Deckard Shaw behind the whole thing, or has Deckard Shaw been secretly working for Cypher this whole time? You know, like, I think we're gonna pull one of those. And like, is she working for Kang? Is she opposing Kang? Is this in some way in concert with what he's also doing? And eventually, this will all connect. Almost definitely. Are we going to like have Jonathan Majors show up in the last episode and be like, ha, Loki, I'm in charge now? I do not think so. I think this is more of one of the subtle, like, this will bridge the gap and then we'll meet Kang down the road.
Yep. Yeah, that's where I am too. Maybe Jonathan Majors post-credit scene, but yeah, I don't know.
Right, exactly. Well, in the same way that like a Ronin would call Thanos and be like, working on it, sir. Oh, you know, or like Steppenwolf calling Darkseid, like, we're so close. 10 minutes, but we've got that anti-life equation right out there. We're working on it.
So we're going to go to some of the questions from the chat in a moment, but I just wanted to, as we're talking about things that they can set up and seed, it was a fun little thing I thought they did here by very casually having Mobius mention that vampires are a thing. We brought in Kree, Titans, vampires, just because we know a certain vampire, slaying vampire is on his way. That's I think where they can, you know, Blade is not going to.
He's a day walker.
He's a day walker.
He's only half.
That's true. That's true. But I thought that was just a fun. Someone pointed out to me when I mentioned that on Twitter that, well, Korg made a very funny joke about you can kill 3 vampires, but I was like, but we don't know if Korg was saying vampires are real or he understood the mythological idea. Right.
This is Mobius. You can make a vampire joke in our world. That doesn't mean vampires are real. We just know what they are. Yeah.
Yes, but this is Mobius saying, "I've met vampires."
Yeah, he's right. This is a new level. Vampires exist. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have any comments on that besides kudos, Marvel. You know what you're doing with these little setups there.
They are not trying to ice skate uphill.
They are certainly not. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel for videos every weekday. Hit that like and that bell if you haven't. We'd love it. Let's go to some stuff from the chat here. Let's see. This we kind of talked about this at the beginning, but Jess Marie G asks, was I the only one that was more upset when Mobius got zapped than Loki? Yeah, I think in the moment, because there was that chance they were going to take out their big, you know, special star who'd been a part of the MCU for the first time. So I was like, I had a visceral reaction. I think, you guys did too, right?
Yeah, definitely. You are not alone. I also was more upset. It came out of nowhere, didn't it? And he's just mid-speech kind of saying, you've lied to me and I'm standing up to you now, and then zap. So yeah, it was a bit of a gut wrench.
Yeah, I definitely reacted more to that, because Loki, when you see him get zapped, you're like, oh, okay, but where'd they send him? They zapped him somewhere. You know, Loki's didn't get taken out at the end of episode 4, but Mobius, I believe, that was like, oh well, that's goodbye, Owen Wilson. I guess that was fun.
I do apologize, Z Jones CB. If I'd looked ahead, I would have saved my vampire mention for you, because you pointed out that they confirming vampires exist in the MCU. Yes, indeed they did. Skinsville asked, do you think there'll be an end credit scene for the rest of the episodes now that they did this one? There's 2 more episodes after this.
Yes.
Should everyone make sure to stay there, keep their Loki going?
Short answer, yes.
Yes. So far that's been the MO, right? Like once they introduce it, now it's like that's the thing, you got to stick around for them. Although Captain America, I'm sorry.
I feel like it's sort of case by case on the Disney Plus shows. Like I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, they certainly, like, for instance, WandaVision had 2 scenes, but Falcon Winter Soldier only had 1. So
right.
I guess we shouldn't say we're sure.
Yeah, I feel like
the finale, right? The finale will have one most likely.
I feel like almost definitely the finale will have one. As for next week, like who knows? We know we're getting a Simpsons short. Maybe we'll
that's true.
Credit scene as well.
Zayas Bilu asked, did anyone notice Loki's imprisonment in the time cell time loop drew inspiration from a classic Norse myth? Loki cutting Sif's hair is a reference to his role in the myth of the creation of Mjolnir. It eventually leads to the creation of the hammer. I did not.
I learned something today. That's fascinating. I'm sure that's intentional. I just didn't know it.
I liked the hairstyle. I didn't notice the first time. Oh, I thought she's done her hair different. I like it. And then it's supposed to look bad.
Was she in that? Did we know? I didn't know Sif was going to be popping up in this. Did we know that in advance?
No. And I wanted to mention that too, because that's Jamie Alexander has not been seen in a movie. She did 2 episodes of S.H.I.E.L.D., but she hasn't been seen in one of these movies, a Feige produced project since 2013.
Yeah.
And we know she's back in Love and Thunder, but
right. I knew she was returning for that. Yeah.
It seems like
he relaxed. Oh, sorry, Eric. I just wanted to say I love that he relaxed with a hot bath and a glass of wine after cutting her hair.
No, this was a fun surprise. I'm always fascinated by contractual things because she was 100% uncredited. So I always wonder how they make these decisions. But that was a nice surprise. And it's funny that it comes right on the heels of the Shang-Chi trailer revealing Abomination after we heard Tim Roth would be back in She-Hulk. It almost seems like that's like the MO now. Get someone back who hasn't been seen in years, and then we put them in something else before the thing that we kind of know their larger role was in.
Well, some of this I feel like might be still pandemic timing stuff, that in some of these cases we maybe were supposed to, not this one, because Thor Love and Thunder was never supposed to come out before Loki. But in some of these cases, I don't know if, some like the Julia Louis-Dreyfus, I think. We were supposed to see her in Black Widow first, but then we ended up seeing her. I don't know if that was a spoiler. I read it when Falcon and Winter Soldier came out.
No, and then also
I haven't seen Black Widow yet, so it can't be a spoiler.
I think you're right, because I also thought some people were like, oh, they should have saved Abomination, or if you see the movie, don't put in the trailer. I was like, well, if there hadn't been a pandemic, I think they would have. You would have seen him in that first, and then it's like, and he's coming back in She-Hulk.
Exactly, but they already made the She-Hulk announcement, so it's like, well, might as well give the people what they want.
Right, here he is.
Not Fin Fang Foom.
Right. Simon Smith believes Miss Minutes is the villain. What do you guys think? Should we not trust Miss Minutes?
I saw Tara Strong tweeted you guys don't know anything about Miss Minutes, her mysterious origin. It was this big tease, and people were offering all these theories. I didn't even think there was. I don't expect an animated character to have a complex backstory.
I mean, I would think she is the villain in a way, if she's controlled by the villain controlling the TVA. That's just an extension of him.
It does kind of open up the can of worms that, now that we know that the timekeepers who can just manipulate reality at will didn't create the TVA, it's incredibly large and complex. Must have been a massive project for somebody. And that's a case where we'll need some more unpacking. If Renslayer did this herself, who is she and how? I feel like there's a big explanation that's still to come.
That you set me up for a question someone had that's a good question related to that.
Who animated, somebody had to hire a motion graphics person to make Miss Minutes. Who did that? Unless you're, if you're Wanda, you could just point your finger and it boop appears, but we don't have anybody in this show that has that kind of power.
Right.
Yeah.
Or do we? Death Star Kitty asks, if Ravonna was the mastermind behind the TVA, then why was she not in charge when she caught Sylvie? We saw that at the time she was just one of the hunters. Now she's a judge. That is a good question. She unless she was playing a very long con and just pretending to be just one of a cog in the machine. What should we make of the fact that she has moved up the ranks in this organization? Can that work with her being behind it all, or does it hint at something else?
Well, there's a slim, there was a sliver in today's episode where I thought maybe she's being mind controlled. When Sylvie threatened to prune her, there was this look in her eyes, and she was like, "Go ahead," she wanted to be zapped. So maybe, just maybe, she's being mind controlled.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something, I don't think it's sort of what I was just saying. Like, I don't think she has the power to just be like, I think we should create something that looks like the TVA, bloop, 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 and then chaos magic makes it. Like, she doesn't seem like the sort of person that has that power, because why would she be going through all of this rigmarole if she could just point and click? So yeah, I feel like there's some kind of larger power behind all of this that's controlling her, or that she has to answer to. I mean, why even go through the going up and down the elevator to go meet the fake robot timekeepers if there's nothing down there for real? Like, she's got to be going down there for some reason.
Right.
She took that at the beginning. She took that big intake of breath, like she was genuinely nervous before going to inside.
And then we see the robots turn on, but we don't know what else happens down there. Yeah, that could just be for show in case somebody else is coming down there.
You saying the robots turn on really makes me think of like a Chuck E. Cheese situation. Like,
I mean, it is basically like a Chuck E. Cheese situation.
Just doing their song. Yeah, I think there's a lot of room there for what happened. I going back to the Kang involvement of it all. I've seen people say, oh, in this storyline, they could say he once was one of the TVA. I think there's a lot of room there for like, maybe the timekeepers were real at one point and someone replaced them, or there's a lot that can work to, especially when you're dealing with characters that exist outside time, and it's like, how long ago was that for her, and that doesn't even like have any meaning. So I agree, it's a good question, what exactly happened there, and I'm curious how much information we'll get in this series versus set up for the future. Let's see, Hep 1013. Oh, that's a good question, because we know Kim's answer is not to this one. What has been the best episode thus far, and why was it this one? Well, Hep 1013. What is everyone's favorite so far?
I think I liked last week's that was accused of being filler. I loved the Doctor Who feel. I loved that they were able to create to go from having created this dynamic between Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston that we all as audience members, I think, unanimously loved, and then just dismiss it for a whole episode and build another one with him and Sylvie. That was brave, and I loved the scale of the last one. We talked about that long continuous shot at the end as well, which was great. So yeah, that's why I liked that one.
I think I liked the second episode when it was the most like a time cop procedural. Like when the show got started, it sort of set up this like Law and Order, but Loki, and it's through time. And then I feel like episode 2 really delivered on that, where it was like they figured out Sylvie's plan and like tracked her to this one apocalypse, and then they went there and it was kind of this chase. And I really like just that whole rain-drenched apocalyptic Best Buy type setting. And I thought that episode was just like totally really interesting and fun. I love the reveal of, Loki, but a lady at the end. I feel like everything really clicked for me on that one. I really enjoyed the last two. I really enjoyed them all. But yeah, I think last week and this week worked really well in tandem as like giving you a ton of download on these characters and their relationship. And then this week, like paying all of it off with all of these big revelations.
Yeah, this was my favorite episode, but I do think strength of the show for me has been I've liked each one more than the last one. The first episode had that burden of a ton of exposition. It was carried by Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston being great actors with great chemistry. But then 2 through 4, yeah, I just think I've been more and more into it each week. They've all had really cool sort of distinct things about them. We've talked in the past about it's like a issue I've had with a lot of shows in the streaming era, especially Netflix shows, is the nebulous nature of what even is an episode. How it's like, what's your favorite episode? Even of Stranger Things and stuff, it becomes really hard to remember what happened in a specific episode.
Yeah, you're just watching them all in like big chunks.
Right. But Loki, besides the fact that they're releasing them weekly, I still also think it's like they've been very distinct, like what's happening in them. Which I think has been a really cool strength of the show.
In that Doctor Who Rick and Morty way, where it's an ongoing narrative, but they're very good about each episode also being a little self-contained adventure, which is not easy to do.
Yep. Let's do two last ones here. Fast Bowler has the observation that Loki and Sylvie becoming more, quote, close seems to trigger Nexus events. What do we think of the fact that that's when a Nexus event with them really bonding and holding hands there is what caused a huge red line event possibility there. Is their love doomed for that reason?
Well, I think. Oh, go ahead.
Maybe if Nexus events are real.
I was going to say something similar, which is like, now that we know the original explanation we got for what the TVA is doing, that there's one sacred timeline of what's supposed to happen, and they're just eliminating all the things that violate it. Well, like, now we know, like, probably not that exactly. It's something they're trying to control it in some way, but there probably isn't one, like, this is the deified, like, version of events perfect timeline. So the whole idea of Nexus events loses meaning. If you're like, well, this one timeline may not be the way things are supposed to happen, then maybe the branch is what the future's supposed to be. So I think we've really thrown it, like, obviously these two getting together is a very significant event in terms of future events, but good or bad, I don't think we have any kind of way to judge that.
Yeah.
I mean, Mobius himself says to Loki that basically he said he can be whoever he wants to be. He can be free. That, you know, he's basically saying what I said to you before about you not having any free will is not true, which supports what you're saying, Lon. Basically, I think, well, green light to go ahead with Sylvie, I guess.
A lot of fans were bringing this up before too. The idea that the sacred timeline idea kind of contradicts some of the other time travel, metaverse, quantum realm stuff we'd already heard in the MCU, and I think this now makes that okay again. Like, it's not a plot hole because the sacred timeline thing was not actually the truth. Like, how could Captain America have branched off if there's one sacred timeline? Like, isn't he a variant now?
Wouldn't they have to prune him?
Wouldn't they have to prune him? And it's like, well, no, now we know that it's like there really isn't one sacred timeline. All of these variations are just variations, you know?
Yeah. I do think I liked that, the Loki and Sylvie holding hands caused the quote Nexus event. We'll see what the reality of that is. As someone who does enjoy very much the very bizarre nature of the Loki and Sylvia romantic attraction, I don't think it's going to end with them together in love in a relationship. I just like that it's part of the backdrop of this show. It's so strange. Also, by the way, I just wanted to mention, as we're talking about variants, that Kaylee Fleming, the young actress who played Kid Sylvie at the beginning, she's Judith on The Walking Dead these days. Mm-hmm. She also played Rey in The Force Awakens in the flashback when she's being pulled. I just want to say that kid's accomplished way more in her life than I had, in her few years of existence than most of us could dream. So kudos to her and jealousy. Lastly, this is a tangent because it's not Loki specific, but it is. We haven't talked about it, so I'll throw it in. Hombre de California says, is this a good moment to talk about how apparently there's an edit at the end of WandaVision? I read about this. If people don't know, there was apparently some very small tweaks to the post-credit scene at the end of WandaVision with her at the cabin. They like redid the tree line like a little bit digitally. Then there was this whole thing about, is that a shape coming down that people thought was Doctor Strange? It was these very minimal things. I think people are probably blowing out of proportion. Does anyone have a take on the WandaVision, the re-edit of that one little scene?
I don't know. Why was it done? Have they come out and said?
No,
we don't know. But I mean, in situations like this, I think you always have to just you ask yourself the logic. Like, what would be the thinking of Kevin Feige and the Marvel team behind this? Like, I know what we're going to do. We're going to go into the post-credit scene of one of our older shows that most fans already watched and have put aside. And we're going to tweak this one scene to add maybe a very ambiguous outline of Doctor Strange or something. It could be to get people excited for future movies in this world. Like, does that sound like a reasonable thing that a big team of executives would do and then not say anything about and deny once the public sort of noticed it or not? It's like, it doesn't really hold. It's like when you see like Bob and Tim's awesome nerd movie blog get some huge scoop about the future of like a major franchise. It's like, would Kevin Feige have called those two guys? You just got to kind of like puzzle that logically. Like, I'm sure it is a new version of this final scene that was put up for some reason. I doubt it's intentionally plot centric.
That's what I think too. I just think it's weird. It made me a little uneasy only because I'm like, oh, I don't want to set a precedent of like them subtly George Lucas saying stuff, and because it also raises the question of the fact that the Disney Plus original series are not being put out on Blu-ray. You can't own them digitally.
Right.
So the fact that like,
but did you go back and watch it? Did you actually go see it for yourself?
Yeah, I did.
So small. It's such a minor tweak. I feel like there was something else about that shot that we haven't noticed that they tweaked, and this is just like an artifact of it or something. Like,
that's what I think. Yeah,
it looks too insignificant to have been a purposeful change. Is what I'm saying.
It almost seems like someone just wasn't happy with the final effects and was like, hey, can I tweak this? And like, yeah, sure.
And just did like a polish. Yeah, and that's exactly what it feels like. Exactly.
He probably just went in without telling anybody. I've never been happy.
I still feel like you got to cut. You got to go through 20 people. That's a lot.
I don't know if you have a backdoor to Disney Plus.
Put this on Disney. Everybody who makes a show for Disney Plus just has a big Disney Plus button, and I just did it. And
I want to believe Paul Bettany has his own. He can dub himself if he wants.
Just like I feel like I should also be in this scene. Mixing it up with the Rescue Rangers.
I'm gonna add Vision's voice to the background of this scene.
Why wasn't I in Tailspin? Well, I'll take care of that.
Jarvis could be a part of this. All right. As we ponder the ramifications of that, guys, that'll wrap up for this week. Thank you for going on this Loki journey. We'll be back to talk about episode 5 next week, and there'll be other videos in between. Thanks, guys. Happy Wednesday. Farewell.